Hello and welcome to The Insiders, our special edition of the Buildings of Tomorrow podcast, where we deep dive into real-life projects around the world and explore how digitalization is being implemented in the buildings industry. In today's episode, we will discuss a fascinating research project known as the Aspern Smart City Research, which demonstrates how urban areas can be developed using market-oriented, scalable, and cost-effective solutions to make energy systems more efficient and climate-friendly. Since October 2013, Siemens Austria has been operating one of the most innovative and sustainable energy efficiency demonstration projects in the areas of building technology and energy distribution as part of Aspern Smart City Research. The project unfolds a unique structure where researchers, engineers, and users collaborate to closely evaluate new solution approaches based on state-of-the-art technologies. More than 100 individuals from various scientific fields are directly involved in the research.
For example, that we are not developing equipment here in Seestadt Aspern. So we are just using equipment which is already available on the market. But there are always big gaps between the professions. They are installing the PV, they are installing the battery, they are installing the heat pump systems, but nobody is really responsible for the whole system when it comes to operation. When it comes to operation, then the operator always says, okay, this is not working and that is not working and the software is not good enough, the user interface is not good enough, because everything is already in place. But working together and developing these systems together, that brings us to a point where we can say, okay, when something is not working, we have all the people on the table to change it.
Various research areas are tested at Aspern Smart City Research, including smart buildings, smart grids, and electromobility. The experience and data gained through the project will be used to develop energy systems for a sustainable future in Vienna and beyond.
It starts with planning a building is the one thing. It has to do with length, with height, with voluminas, with everything which is the building, referring to the building. But how do I bring all this technology into the building? So the planners of the building and all those people who create an energy system or plan an energy system have to work together in a very, very early stage.
Joining us as our guest speakers today, we have Robert Grüneis, General Manager at Aspern Smart City Research, and Oliver Juli, Project Manager of Aspern Smart City Research at Siemens. And without further ado, let's tune in with John and discover what this project is all about.
Robert, Oliver, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us here.
It's an absolute pleasure. And hey, what we're going to talk about today with Aspern Smart City Research is something that's been going for some time. It's something that's really impressive in what you've done. And we're going to get into the details of that over the next minutes in our conversation. But before we dive in, I wanted to ask you to give us just a couple of keywords. If you're going to describe what this project is to you personally, but also to the organizations that are involved in it, what are those 2 or 3 words that you would choose? I'll come to you first, Robert, to give us your input.
As you asked for 2 words only, that's really a challenge.
It's a tough one, right?
It's a tough point, yeah. So I would describe it like innovate together. That's these are the perfect 2 words because working together and getting brighter, smarter for the future together is it. So only in a team you can find out the best solutions.
Amazing. This is going to connect so well to our discussion today, and I think one of the core reasons and the core findings from this. Same question over to you, Oliver. What would you pick as your 2 words to describe?
My suggestion would be it's a great success. So great success are my 2 words because we have a 9 years history now, or nearly 10 years. And I think that the whole project, the whole program we are doing here in Aspern Seestadt is a great success. So these are my 2 words.
Put them together, we have 4 great words about learning together, getting smarter, and finding success in doing so. Really excited for today because even from a personal perspective, Aspern or ASCR is something that I've I've been looking and following along some of the different topics where I spend my time working with BIM and digital twin and others. So I'm really excited for this conversation. And let's dive in. Let's start at the start. You mentioned there, Oliver, almost 10 years. Let's go back 10 years. Why did this start? What was the start of this project, and what were you trying to achieve? What were you setting out to do when ASCR began? And I'll come to you first, Oliver, but of course, from both of you, I'm looking for insight.
Yeah, looking 10 years back at the beginning, when we remember 10 years ago, there was the smart city topic was coming up. And for us at Siemens, we talked at that time to combine buildings and networks together to make them communicating. So that was I would say, the basic idea. And to develop the systems we need to realize this vision, it was necessary to have partners on board. It was not possible anymore to develop such systems in a laboratory. It was clear to us that we need a city district, a partner city. We need someone in the area of distribution, network operating, of an energy provider, utility. And the idea came up to have a common project with the city of Vienna and talking or thinking about how we can realize this project. We came to a point that we say it's better to have a common joint venture together to have a stable base for all these developments. It was clear from the beginning that it is not done with a few euros. In the first 5 years period, we spent more than 40 million euros just on investing in the infrastructure we need, in all the framework and also the development part. So we came to a point that we say a joint venture would be the best possibility to get the project done. So that was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, approximately in 2013. And now we are 9 years old. We had a second period started in 2019. It's running up to 2023. And in sum, we have nearly 100 million euros now, including national and international fundings. And we had a lot of success in developing the systems we need for the future. So this is a small history now, but at the end of the day, the teamwork, it functions right well, and I think it's a great success. Yeah.
May I add something?
Of course, Robert, please. Absolutely.
I think it's very important to stress or to look back what happened those times 10 years ago in Vienna. And when you go back around 2010, time of 2010, a lot of people came to Vienna and wanted to stay there, wanted to live there. And Vienna grew those times from 2010 to 2017, 17, I guess. It was 250,000 more inhabitants in Vienna. So the city saw that and set up a framework strategy, a smart city framework strategy, and asked itself, the whole city, the municipality and the politicians worked together and asked several questions. How can we deal with that movement, and how can we deal with that fact, and how can we secure living quality within the city? And they set up several goals in that framework strategy, and one goal was to innovate, to have research and development. That's very important. And so they came to the point and they said, okay, we have a huge area in the north of Vienna, that's Aspern, the Seestadt Aspern, and we can use it. We can develop a part of a city, a modern and innovative part of the city, and we should do energy research, because everything in a growing city is combined to energy. It has to be secure or safe, quality of supply, and it has to be renewable to reduce CO2 emissions and so on and so forth. And so within that framework strategy, ASCR, Aspern Smart City Research, was born. And that's the basis. The Smart City Framework Strategy is the basis for our actions. And one thing, one important point is that we don't do our research on paper or only within the IT or on the computer. We try things out. We build things. Oliver mentioned it. We invested those times into energy plants, into grid system, into sensors, into IT, and we worked together with people just to know what we should do research in. So that's for the beginning from my side.
It's amazing, Robert, and it links really well to my next question, which is, this is the history and this challenge that Vienna found themselves in 2007 through till 2017, or give or take, is a challenge we see in many cities. We see urbanization as one of the global megatrends. We see cities growing. We see the challenge of how do we manage new people, but also maintain that quality of supply, the safety within our daily lives, but also stay green, try and reduce in general. And I love to see these kinds of projects, and like you just described, because there's a real world need. This is not research for research's sake. This is a research to solve a problem that is burning. And I really like how you also highlighted development. It's not just about putting things in practice and testing them. It's discovering then what the next solution is and what the next step would be. From your perspective, Robert, how, if you put yourself in your shoes 10 years ago, what was your vision? What did you hope to achieve, and what was on the cutting edge when you sat in those first discussions, when you signed those first partnership agreements? What was the core behind this for ASCR as an organization, as a project?
Honestly said, in the first moment, I was a little skeptical that such a joint venture could work out, because it's a big technology group, Siemens, with its own history, long history and culture. And on the other side, the companies, Wiener Netze, Wien Energie, the main one, the main shareholders, they have their own culture as well. And so I was a little skeptical if that could work out. But then after a short time, I realized that this working together, establishing R&D program is quite fruitful and could help. So the process itself with watching the people acting together was very interesting and made me feel good in a way. Yeah, and I thought, okay, that could work out, and we proved it in the end, that we solved major problems we faced those times. And now we are in the process. We are 9 years old already. We got wise for a 9-year-old child. But we are working on the next R&D program for the next years. And we see the progress, and we find the necessary measurements to come to new results, which should help the people living in the city.
Perfect. Before we jump into what you looked at, the use cases, the technologies, I wanted to ask both of you, and we'll start with you, Robert. How important is it that this was done in the real world? How important is it that this is not on paper, but is physical?
Yeah, there's a difference. You can do things on paper within the computer, but you have to see how it works. So normally, the importance is in the details. Sometimes you realize then in praxis, I forgot this thing or that thing, and does it really work? You have to try it out. That's one thing, and we realized it's very important to see what is going on, to talk with the people who are using or benefit from our developed technologies. That's one thing, and now we partly go a step back. We do more research in a own project use case, like the building information modeling. So we are going a step back, and then we try it out. But maybe Oliver wants to tell more about that.
Yeah, same question to you, Oliver. How important is the real world piece, and maybe you have an example of some things that that together with the group you discovered or you found that you wouldn't have found if you were just living in the digital or the research world?
Yeah. My opinion is that it is a must-have to do it in the real world. It does not make sense to develop management systems in a lab and then try to sell it on the market without a reference project. So what we see here is it's not just the utility and the network operator and the technology partner which is necessary to develop such systems. We are also in close operation with real estate developers, with construction companies, and they are far away from our mindset of innovation. We are doing software and algorithms and all these things, and they are dealing with completely other domains. And it's much more efficient and we are much more faster when we are working together, really build real buildings in a city, install the new systems, try it out together. Everybody is looking at the same entity, I would say, from different perspectives. And from my point of view, what is the real asset and the real benefit of this project here is that we speed up the development time for the systems. So becoming much more, or the acceleration is much more necessary here. So to really get faster in time to market, and that's the big advantage when you work together in a way we do it here in Seestadt Aspern.
Maybe I can add one aspect. Oliver mentioned it, but trying things out in a real lab is one thing, but those things we try out, they have to work, they have to function. So all our heat pumps have to deliver heat. The batteries and the power system on the roof, which work together with the heat pump, they have to function. And in the apartment, in the office buildings, it has to be warm and cooled, and there has to be electricity available around 24/7. That's one thing. But you try it out, you optimize and so on. And the reason for that acceleration Oliver mentioned is that you have to think very precisely before you start going into the real lab, going to talk with people, to set up the use case and do the necessary measurements, investments, and everything. So you have to think before and then go into action. And that accelerates in the end all the products for our owners, for our shareholders.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned it before, Oliver, and Robert, you mentioned it earlier as well, this partnership, whether they're the shareholders, whether they're the technology partners. Would you be successful? Would you be signing up now for the next phase through to for the next years if those partners and this partnership didn't work?
If it did not work.
Yeah. How is this an essential piece? This level of partnership and collaboration?
Yeah, definitely, because we need to have a closer look to all aspects of our energy system. It does not make sense to have just one different part of it in mind. So it was always our approach to have the whole value chain in mind, from the beginning, from the building or from the network up to the user. And I think this is necessary to find working solutions in a short time frame. And we all know that we have a lot of pressure on the energy system, on our energy world, and we have to speed up bringing our solutions to the market, to the people. And what we also see is that sounds a little pessimistic now, but you need time to develop all these systems. Yeah, it's not enough to have PV on the roof and the battery storage and the heat pump systems in the cellar. You need the management systems, you need the infrastructure, you need all the applications to deal with that amount of data you get from all these sensors, etc., etc. And this is not visible to most of the people. This is real technology in the background. This is you can compare it with an iceberg. You see just the 10% which is above the water, but the infrastructure is below the water, and this is the essential part. And I come back to the partnership now. You need all the partners in this value chain to find solutions. It does not make sense to do it on your own.
Understand. Let's talk a little bit about some of those technologies. Robert, when you kicked this off, you talked a little bit about the problem, the challenge. What were some of the things that you tried to tackle, and what was the approach that you took from a technical perspective?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, of course. What was the bigger problem we faced? So at first, I think the most important thing is we work together with professionals, like in the heating business, in the electricity business, and with our experts and researchers from our shareholders. But to build up a whole energy system, like the power plants on the roof, is it PV or solar thermal? And the working together with batteries, the connection to all the sensors. That's a new system for all the experts who have to build it. So all the experts, like the installation business workers or the electricians, they do only their aspect, yeah? And they don't understand the whole system. So what we faced, and I think what the whole business and the whole industry has to learn, is work together, try to understand what is going on in the new energy world. So they have to talk together, they have to learn, and then find out what is the system in this building, for example, we are sitting in here. And that's a very important point, that not only the energy system itself changes, but all those who mount things, who mount the solar power panels, for example, have to be aware and capable of connecting it to the storage facilities or to computers, for example, and sensors. That's a very, very important point for the future, to make the whole system working. That's one very, very important thing.
Well, one thing is, for example, that we are not developing equipment here in Seestadt Aspern. So we are just using equipment which is already available on the market. But there are always big gaps between the professions. They are installing the PV, they are installing the battery, they are installing the heat pump systems, but nobody is really responsible for the whole system when it comes to operation. Yeah, when it comes to operation, then the operator always says, okay, this is not working and that is not working, and the software is not good enough, and the user interface is not good enough, because everything is already in place. But working together and developing these systems together, that brings a real that brings us to a point where we can say, okay, when something is not working, we have all the people on the table to change it. Yeah, and when we talk about energy system, I will always talk about, or I want to talk about decentralized energy systems, because we have buildings now. They are providing the heating and the cooling via heat pump systems, and they are using groundwater and air as resources. And when you build such systems, very often the facility management or the operator, they have to understand the whole system to be in the position to operate it in the right way. So facility management is not comparable in the future with that what was it for 10 years ago. Yeah. So we are talking about computer-aided facility management. So they have to understand all the systems. They have to understand the digital twins when we have a digital twin of a building and to operate with it. So it brings us to a point that we have, from equipment point of view, we have standard products in our project. But from the operation point of view, how to manage it in the future, we have completely new functionality. We are dealing, for example, with weather data, etc., to have a clue about what happens tomorrow, what happens the day after tomorrow with the system. How should I manage my storage system? So it's a completely change in the mindset necessary of operators, for example, but also for the people who are investing in such buildings. They are now in a position to say that we have not just to think about the building itself, but also about the whole infrastructure. And I think this is a change in the mindset.
Change in a mindset. And sorry, Robert, please.
Yeah, to come back to that, what Oliver mentioned, that's more or less on the end of the scale in optimizing an energy system. That's facility management and predictive maintenance and so on and so forth. It's more or less one of our use cases in the end, or part of 3. But what else do we do, or what else do we look at? Do we have a closer look? It starts with planning a building is the one thing. It has to do with length, with height, with voluminas, with everything which is the building, referring to the building. But how do I bring all this technology into that building? So the planners of the building and all those people who create an energy system or plan an energy system have to work together in a very, very early stage. That's one thing that is one of our use cases as well, because we want to have building information modeling for the heat system, for the sensor system, and it has to fit into the BIM model of all the construction companies. So they have to work together. Then we establish, on basis of all the data and the digital twins we have here at ASCR, we want to start to operate the building, or try to operate the building in the computer. That's what I mentioned before. Long before the first caterpillar comes and digs out the hole to start building the building. So, and that's the important thing. And we are now at the point with our use cases to start at the beginning. Let's simplify it. You can say, let's talk the planner together with all the energy system creators. And in the end, how to optimize the operation of all the systems in the building. And that on a digital basis long before the building is being built.
Absolutely. And that links really nicely to where I'd like to jump in. I think in our conversations in preparation, we talked around the building, the smart building, and like you described, BIM, the digital twin process, and the digitalization of many of these kind of manual processes. We talked a bit about the smart grids and creating a smart grid, and then talking about e-mobility, something which is maybe was not on the forefront of our thought process 10 years ago, but absolutely is today and will be more and more. So let's dive into those really quickly. You mentioned it already, Robert, taking the BIM approach from a building perspective, creating those digital twins. What are some examples you have for us as you describe this, the digital construction, the digital testing and operation, the planning phase starting extremely early with all stakeholders? What does that look like now after we're some years through the process in your attempts to digitalize some of those operation processes and the commissioning and the different manual steps that would happen in a traditional sense?
You mean it in reference to e-mobility? Did I get you right there?
Let's get to e-mobility, but before we get there, look at the smart building. You described the BIM process. You described leveraging the digital twin. Do you have an example for us about that's enabled you to achieve with a building by leveraging those digital processes?
Yeah, for example, that's our Technology Center 2. That's a certain building here in the area of one of our shareholders, the Vienna Business Agency, and we more or less BIMified this building after it or during the process of erection and building, and so we have a view of certain points on the timeline. So, like when the building was where only the bricks were simple said built, then with an intermediate state, and then at the end. And we see through this BIMification, we see not only where the interesting points are, like the point of interest, but we know where the sensors are, and so on and so forth. And now the whole system, which is developed, there watches what is going on there. How do more or less the heat pump? How does the heat pump feel? Yeah? Does it have any problems? We have sound sensors there, everything. And if there are some alerts, the system, it's artificial intelligence, watches the facility manager. It watches his actions. What is he doing? And in the future, out of this system we developed, it will suggest an action to the facility manager. So what's the output then? One facility manager is not only responsible for 1, 2, or 3 buildings. He can operate and manage through this developed IT solution more buildings, and the system learns itself and into the direction of predictive maintenance. So that's a very cost-efficient process and to save money in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think also when we talk about predictive maintenance, something that as an industry we talk a lot about, but really seeing it in real life and making it happen are two very different things. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just when Robert mentioned it, to have, we call it electronic ears. We have audio systems installed to have a closer look at the behavior of a heat pump system, how the sound is, and to find anomalies in these sounds. But our heat pumps, for example, they are completely new, so there are no anomalies currently. So we have to be innovative here in that way to produce artificial faults, I would say. So this is the daily way of doing how we develop our systems. So sometimes we have to be innovative in that way. On the other side, we found sometimes there are errors or mistakes done by some professionals we are not expecting. And when we analyze the data, for example, we call it heat maps of data. And then we see the problem areas in red color. And then you can see, or when you talk to the professionals, they often say, we wouldn't find that error in a certain time frame without data analysis. So not everything what we do is really planned before. A lot of applications, a lot of tools are developed on the run, getting new ideas during the project, and so we make one step to the other. We have a real toolbox now in the area of building, but also in the area of the grid, in the how we manage data. So we are really in a way to say we plan our use cases and we plan our technology developments, and we are talking about which building would fit best in our test bed. But the real innovation and the real or the best ideas, they are coming during the process when we do the project itself.
Amazing. And I think this reflects back to, sorry, Rob, please.
There's another point. What we saw was, it's more or less a funny story, but the true one. The one big source of mistakes or failures are we.
The people, the operators, yeah.
The operators. So I can remember when we installed our battery system for a charging system and the battery system for the EVs. And so the technician, our colleague Robert, he set the switch that it doesn't unload lower than 50% the battery, just for safety. Yeah. And after, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, we noticed the battery doesn't it doesn't go down below 50%, and we asked ourselves why. And we forgot that he set the switch that it doesn't go under 50%. And I think it took 1 or 2 weeks till we found out that was the first setting of the switch. So sometimes we are the reason for some mistakes.
Hey, but also a great reminder, you know, when we so much of that innovation, as you say, comes on site, but those mistakes you don't find unless you're there and taking notice. And what we know in the industry is that so many buildings are built, and on day one the keys are handed over and things are not touched again. And you then have a system that you may have designed perfectly, that might be the perfect size and functionality, but if it's only going to 50%, it's not giving the benefit that it could be. And this is something, I guess, these hotspots of data and this understanding and insight that we're able to find, knowing that you always need those experts to understand and recognize the problem and then use the tools to find the solution moving forward. Yeah. One last question before we wrap up. I mentioned e-mobility before, and you talked earlier around creating these smart buildings, connecting them to the grids, realizing the transparency, and then operating things differently. And then something changes. Maybe we already foresee e-mobility, but perhaps the uptake is faster than we would expect. How has your experience been through these 9 years, almost 10 years, as expectations and goals have changed? And how have you managed that within this project?
Yeah, maybe I start. That was one of the major ideas at the beginning, that we want to connect the building with the grid, because we saw that when we have decentralized energy management systems, we have PV on the roof, we have heat pump systems, then the behavior of the building itself on the interface to the grid will change completely. Yeah, normally the building is just consuming energy, and now the building is producing energy, is storing energy, and needs at a certain time no energy from the grid, or even gives energy back to the grid. And when it's foggy, for example, or in the night, he's consuming energy from the grid. And then combining the building with the e-mobility infrastructure brings the whole system to a completely new level, because e-cars, when you imagine you have 10 or 20 e-cars in the cellar, coming home all at the same time and plug in all at the same time, you have an energy peak. Yeah. And now this is a perfect example, I think, how e-mobility and e-mobility infrastructure, the building itself and the network, has to interoperate in the future. And therefore we need communication technologies, interfaces, standardized interfaces, how this should work in the future. And we are currently just working with one building with 10 charging stations, with a small PV, with a small battery, and one interface to the network. And I really say it from it is really complex. Yeah, just one building. And to imagine that I have to operate a whole city district like Aspern within the next 10 years, this puts a lot of pressure on all the shareholders in this system. So I think this is a good example to see how all these entities have to work together, and how important it is that we test it here in Seestadt Aspern in the real world. Because I come back to my example of the iceberg. The e-cars are already available and the charging station are also available, but all the infrastructure in the background is not available. How to operate charging stations in a smart way in the future, when a building is producing energy during the day? How do I bring this energy directly to the e-car? Or when the e-car is not here, how do I store it in the battery to give it to the car in the evening? All these things must work automatically and in a very efficient way. And these systems are currently under development. And everybody who says it's already available, just try to buy it. It is not available. Yeah, we are still developing these things, and that's the big point for the whole e-mobility industry. I think in the future, they will only sell e-cars in a large amount, and we will only buy e-cars in a large amount when the infrastructure is working. Yeah, when you need 24 hours to charge your e-car, you will go back to the old one.
Understand. Yeah. And a great example of the complexity that comes with it. Let's finalize. It's been a great conversation. Robert, Oliver, thank you so much for your time. I'd like to ask you both, what's next for Aspern Smart City Research? You have some years already in the road, but if you look forward, what happens next for ASCR?
So there is still a lot to do in the network. We developed in the last 5 years, we developed a lot of tools and applications for network planners, for network operators. And we tested it in a small smart grid in Aspern. And now it's the question how to roll it out to a city like Vienna with 2 million inhabitants. So this is a process we have to face. There is a lot to do in the grid. We have the next step towards buildings is definitely to close the gaps between planning, construction, and operating a building, using building information modeling, developing digital twins including the primary energy supply systems, all the sensors. That's a question of Internet of Things. All these technologies have to be integrated in a building to do the next step in the building area from a smart building to an autonomous building, and then interconnecting buildings together, not only in the data and in the electricity world, but also in the thermal world, to exchange heating and cooling between buildings. And then for sure, all the topics around e-mobility, how to integrate e-mobility infrastructure in the whole system, how to develop the interfaces. So this is what we are already doing and what we are planning also for the next decade. But what comes also in our mind is now, for example, just an idea how to decarbonize the district heating system, in a city like Vienna. How to make really large power plants combining wind parks and PV. So not everything what we are currently planning will be realized in Aspern Seestadt. So we are definitely thinking about spreading our testbed around Vienna, but that is in the plans for the next decade.
Yeah, from my point of view, besides the very important content, it's necessary to set up a new research and development program, and what is more important is to convince the shareholder to go on into a next period, because they had their researchers in our group working together with others and had their experiences, and they have their output, and they think, okay, they think about making it for their own. 10 years is enough. And that's quite understandable on the one hand. On the other hand, what we think and what we experience on a daily basis is that, and I come back to my first statement, working together is more beneficial. And we have to convince one of the shareholders that it is very important. And now we try to figure out what's the best way of working together for the next level with those shareholders. And even we have to change, our project management has to change. We have to become more agile. We were very precise in the beginning with controlling all the steps, and not only controlling in respect of steer, but just to check the steps what the researchers made. Now I think it's time to change our way of doing research together with our shareholders. And so we want to make several suggestions to our shareholders and try to get them into the next level.
I would underline that it's not only about technology, it's also about the processes, how to reach your goals. So just developing a new system is not everything.
Another one and another one.
So you could just an example. We have 8 or 9 building test beds running. We have 6 technology fields where we are developing different kind of technologies, and we have nearly 20 use cases. So we have to coordinate and all these things in a technical way, but also in an administrative way. So this is a big challenge also from program management point of view. So not everything is about technology here in Aspern. There is a lot of things around, but the core is always the research and development program, and we are developing now the new program for the future, and hopefully we will be successful also in the future.
We will be.
Absolutely. Amazing. And a great way to finish, because what I feel, through this whole conversation, and both of you mentioned it multiple times, that collaboration, that partnership, It's all about the we and being involved early, all the different stakeholders, all the different professionals, whether they're installing, developing solutions, delivering, operating. This conversation is an essential part of how we need to move forward, and you're demonstrating that and learning and teaching the rest of us so much through Aspern Smart City Research. So firstly, Robert, Oliver, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. It's hugely appreciated. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you too.
Thank you for the invitation.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I hope at some point we talk more in the future. But for everyone out there listening, please take the opportunity, search for Aspern Smart City Research. There's a lot of information out there. They're doing really cool things, and they're discovering a lot of stuff and making what we talk about in the industry real, and finding the cracks, finding the tough spots, and also discovering, developing, and moving us all forward to get to where we ultimately need to be. So check it out, get out there and search and find. And I'm sure that you also have the opportunity to reach out to Robert and Oliver in one of our amazing social media options out there to continue the conversation. But until then, please remember to like, share, and comment on this episode, subscribe to the show, and we hope that we hear more and more from Aspern Smart City Research in the future. Until then, we'll talk to you very soon. Thank you all.